Hey, welcome to Crime Time 911. Today's story is one that stayed with me for a long time. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's deeply human, and it's full of questions. We're heading to Halifax, Nova Scotia, a city by the sea, full of charm, history, and tight-knit communities. And we're talking about Holly Bartlett. Holly was 31 years old. She was smart, independent, funny, and blind. She had a master's degree. She worked full-time. She had a close circle of friends. She was living her life fully and beautifully. But one night in March 2010, something happened. Something that still doesn't make any sense. She was found unconscious under a bridge. And a few days later, she passed away in the hospital. The official theory? That she got disoriented and fell. But the people who knew her, they weren't convinced. And over time, more questions emerged. So today, we're going to walk through Holly's story. Not just the facts, but the feeling. We'll talk about who she was, what happened that night, and why this case still matters. And I want you to stay curious with me, because this isn't just about jumping to conclusions. It's about listening. It's about wondering. It's about honoring someone's life and asking the questions that deserve answers. Holly was born in Halifax in 1978. She had a rare condition called toxoplasmosis. It affected her vision from a very young age. By the time she was in her 20s, she was completely blind. But here's the thing. Holly didn't let that slow her down. She was fiercely independent. She used a cane. She navigated public transit. She had a guide dog named Danny, a beautiful golden retriever who went everywhere with her. She earned a master's degree in public administration. She worked at the Halifax Regional Municipality. She was known for being sharp, organized, and kind. Her co-workers admired her. Her friends adored her. She was funny, thoughtful, and always up for a good conversation. She lived in an apartment near the waterfront. She had routines. She'd take the ferry, go to work, meet friends for dinner. She was active in the blind community too, volunteering, mentoring, advocating, and she was careful. She planned things. She didn't take unnecessary risks. So when people heard what happened to her, they were stunned because it didn't fit. It didn't make sense. And that's where the questions began. It was Friday, March 26, 2010. Holly had gone out with coworkers to celebrate the end of the term. They went to a local bar, the kind of casual spot where people unwind after a long weekend. She had a few drinks, nothing wild, just a night out. Around midnight, she called a cab to go home. The driver was Paul Fraser, someone who would later become a key figure in this story. He picked her up and drove her to her apartment complex near McKay Bridge. Now, this is where things start to get fuzzy. Fraser originally told police that Holly seemed very intoxicated. He rated her an 8 out of 10 on a scale of drunkenness. But years later, in an interview with CBC's The Fifth Estate, he changed his story. He said she barely spoke, that she didn't seem that impaired. He admitted he'd been flippant with the police, not taking the interview seriously. He also didn't mention at first that he returned to her building shortly after dropping her off. Security footage from a nearby bus showed his cab circling back. When asked why, Fraser said he saw Holly trip and felt guilty, so he came back to check on her. But by then, she was gone. That detail, the return visit, wasn't in the original police report. And it raised eyebrows. Because if Holly was disoriented, why didn't he help her? If she was fine, why come back? Her condo was just a few hundred meters from where she was later found. But the path between those 2 points? It's not simple. It's not direct. Early the next morning, March 27th, workers found Holly lying unconscious under the McKay Bridge. She was barely breathing. She had severe injuries. She was rushed to the hospital. She passed away the next day. The police theory was that she got disoriented after getting out of the cab, that she had wandered towards the bridge, crawled through a hole in a fence, climbed a 20-foot concrete abutment, and fell. But that theory didn't sit right with the people who knew her. Holly was blind, yes, but she was trained in orientation and mobility. She knew her neighborhood. She knew how to navigate. She used her cane. She planned her routes. Her cane wasn't found with her. Police didn't locate it during their initial search either. Later, friends found it leaning against a fence under the bridge. Her wallet and phone? Found outside her building, not with her. The blood alcohol level? Reported as high, but Holly had received multiple blood transfusions before the test was done, so the number wasn't even reliable. All of this added up to one thing: confusion. The official explanation didn't match the facts, and it didn't match Holly. After Holly's passing, her family and her friends started asking questions. Her mother, Marian Bartlett, said the case was closed too quickly. She felt the police had made assumptions, that Holly was just a blind drunk girl who got lost. But Holly was anything but that. Her coworkers, her friends, her mobility instructors, they all said the same thing. Holly was careful. She was capable. She wouldn't have wandered into a construction zone by accident. The cab driver's story changed. He admitted to misleading the police. He denied taking extra money despite earlier statements. He didn't mention coming back to her building until years later. So what really happened? Did Holly get confused? Did something else occur after she got out of his cab? Was there someone else involved? We don't know, but the questions keep coming, and eventually they lead to a deeper investigation. In 2014, CBC's The Fifth Estate aired an episode called The Long Way Home. It was a deep dive into Holly's case, and it raised serious questions. They brought in Tom Martin, a retired Halifax police detective turned private investigator. He reviewed the case from scratch. He walked the route Holly would have taken. He looked at the terrain, the fencing, the slope, the distance, and here's what he found. The official theory that Holly climbed a 20-foot abutment and fell didn't make sense. Not for someone blind, not for someone trained in mobility, not for someone who didn't have her cane. Martin said the path was virtually impossible. He believed Holly may have been trying to get home but got turned around. And something happened along the way. The Fifth Estate also did reenactments. They had blind volunteers try to navigate the same route. And every single one of them said the same thing. It was confusing. It was dangerous. It wasn't something they would have done, especially not without a cane. These findings didn't prove what happened, but they made one thing clear. The original theory wasn't enough. Holly's story resonated far beyond Halifax. The CNIB, Canadian National Institute for the Blind, got involved. They advocated for a deeper review. They said Holly's case highlighted how assumptions about disability can shape investigations. Because here's the thing, Holly was blind, but she was also trained. She was also careful. She was also smart. And yet, the initial response treated her blindness as the explanation, as if that alone could account for everything. The blind community pushed back. They said, "We deserve better. We deserve thorough investigations. We deserve to be seen as capable." Holly's family continued to speak out. Her mother, Marian, gave interviews. She said she didn't want revenge. She wanted understanding. She wanted truth. And slowly, the public started paying attention. People began asking what really happened. Why was the case closed so quickly? What does justice look like when someone can't speak for themselves? So where are we today? Officially, Holly's case is closed. The file lists her passing as accidental, and there's no active investigation. That's the record on paper. But for the people who knew her, and for many who followed her story, the questions never really went away. The Fifth Estate episode in 2014 brought national attention back to the case. It highlighted the inconsistencies in the original theory and gave space to experts and advocates who said, this explanation doesn't add up. It explored Holly's life, her routines, the night she was found, and the aftermath. It gave voice to her family, her friends, and the blind community who felt their concerns hadn't been taken seriously. And that's where things stand now, with an official record that says accident, but with a community that continues to say, look closer. With loved ones who still want clarity, and with listeners like us who can't help but feel the weight of details that don't sit neatly together. When we step back, Holly's story becomes more than one night in Halifax. It's about how we respond when something doesn't make sense. It's about how assumptions, especially around disability, can shape the way a story is told. Holly was blind, yes, but she was also trained, careful, and independent. To reduce her final hours to "she must have gotten lost" is to miss the full picture of who she really was. It's also about the importance of care in investigations. Small details matter. A cane found later, a driver's story that shifts, a routine that doesn't feel plausible. None of these alone solve the mystery, but together they remind us that easy answers aren't always the right ones. And finally, it's about respect. Respect for people's skills, their independence, their routines. Respect for families who deserve thoroughness. Respect for the idea that every life and every unexplained ending deserves curiosity and dignity. Holly's case doesn't give us a neat resolution, but maybe that's the point. Maybe the lesson is to keep asking better questions, to listen harder, to make sure that the next time something doesn't add up, we don't settle for the simplest explanation. We look deeper. We care more. We honor the person at the center of it all. Don't forget to follow, like, and share. It helps more people discover these stories and keeps the conversation going. Thanks for listening to Crime Time 911. Stay safe, stay curious, and remember to always trust your gut.